Are you investigating project-based learning today? Are you a seasoned PBL teacher or leader? Do you need more PBL resources to help you on your PBL journey? If you answered yes to any of these questions, I have the perfect free resource for you. Go to whatispbl.com. At whatispbl.com, you can choose administrator or teacher, and we're going to customize the resources that come your way. It's a great place to get started or to get some advanced tools to share. Whatispbl.com. Welcome to episode 140 on the PBL Simplified Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Stoyer, also lead a group called Magnify Learning, doing great PBL work across the country. We have this big, hairy, audacious goal. That's Jim Collins' work with Good to Great. You got to have this giant goal, this visionary goal that's going to change the world that you're moving towards. We want 51% of schools to be using PBL by 2051. So what if the majority of schools were using PBL? We call it 51 by 51. We think if the majority of schools were using PBL, the majority of students are graduating purposeful instead of passive, we think the world would be a better place. If people were coming out of high school looking at problems and not just identifying them, but then looking directly for solutions, not waiting for someone to solve it, but jumping in themselves, creating a business to solve it, or just an entrepreneur, like within whatever business they're in, they're solving problems, bringing tons of value, I think the world's gonna be a better place. When students, teachers, and principals all know their purpose and they're working in their area of genius, again, we think the world's gonna be a better place. So this is how we do it. This is our avenue. It's project-based learning. Thank you for tuning in today so we can help simplify the PBL process and bring your vision off the page and into the school. Today, we have a PBL leadership guest on the podcast. Vamsi is the CEO of a group called Make More Leaders. That's a great title. I think I actually start the podcast just by thanking him for that title. Absolutely love it. Like, we need more leaders. We need great followers as well. But we need leaders that are willing to step up and launch their vision in a sustainable way. Not for 2 years, not for 5 years, but for decades. And that have a succession plan, that are building systems and processes. So I think you're gonna like this episode today with Vamsi. He's a leadership coach. His Masterminds, he's got this one really great course where it's like, you just tell him the impossible thing that you wanna do, and he helps you do it. He shares that story at the very end. But you need somebody in your life, whether it's a coach or a mastermind, and we do this in education. We know it works in education, it works in business. Magnify Learning, we've brought it to education as well, an online community with masterminds, with coaching. You need somebody that's gonna light a spark in you and in your staff to really go big. Not to go big for the sake of going big, but leaving a legacy because it's helping kids, making the world a better place. It's a sustainable thing, we can do it. Again, we call it project-based learning, that's our avenue. And today Vamsi is gonna share some metaphors that dive into leadership that you can use with your staff to help explain some of the work you're doing. And then the trick's really gonna be is he's gonna help you invest in yourself. Because when you get better, the organization gets better. Enjoy this episode. PBL Simplified audience, visionary leaders, we've got a PBL guest episode for you today. And when we have a PBL guest leadership, what we do is we bring somebody in, maybe from education, maybe from the sports world, maybe from business, really just anybody that I just think you need to talk with. You need to hear a conversation. And today we've got somebody from the business world, and Vamsi is the founder and CEO of Make More Leaders. First of all, Vamsi, I love the name of your company. Like, we're trying to make more leaders. And what Vamsi does, high-level leadership coaching and masterminds. One of his taglines is that he's a black belt in results. I'm going to give you one more tagline that I love that he has on his website. It says, study the most important product, you, so you can scale you. And we've talked about that on the podcast a lot, visionary leaders, is that you need to invest in you so that your vision can grow. Vamsi, thanks for being on the PBL Simplified Podcast. We appreciate you being here.
Hey, Ryan, great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So we start with the same question. Every guest gets the same first question. We talk a lot about your why here. So what is your why for the work that you do with leaders?
Absolutely. So we all have greatness inside of us, and most of the times we ignore that greatness and we look things outside. Let me start with a simple example, since most of your listeners are principals and school teachers and helping younger leaders to grow and become their true version. Just imagine a kid who is studying the 6th grade, who is struggling with the math, and kid got stuck in the 6th grade for entire year, could not like make any progress on math. What is the first thing? Being a parent, being a teacher, you try to go and help the kid. If the kid stuck in the same grade for the second year is not like he or she is not making progress, if you're a parent, you drop everything what you have on your hand and you focus on your kid. I really wanted to make this kid go to the next level, right?
Right. Yeah.
So that's like a common thing. But when it comes to your personal growth, just think about it. How long you stuck in the same grade in your job? So you have separate rules for your kids, you have separate rules for your students, but when it comes to you, you don't have those rules. That is where I start like maybe helping people to see what is greatness inside of you. The moment we identify that, we can do miracles, Ryan, with the things that we have. A lot of times people think like, I don't have resources, I don't have superpowers. No, you have everything inside of you. The moment you start tapping into that, the moment you start recognizing that, you can. That's my why. That's how I do. And at one point I was very like the kid, I got stuck in multiple times in my corporate career, and somebody helped me. Somebody believed in me. And because of that simple belief, somebody like just like say, hey, you can do that. That simple word helped me to see what is available to me, what is possible to me. And I'm doing the same thing with everyone I'm touching through this podcast now.
Yeah, that's so great. What a great correlation. We've got leaders listening, and when they see a student that's struggling, they will drop what they're doing. They may move a meeting so they can help the student because they see an opportunity. But you're saying, hey, leaders, are you doing that for yourself? Like, how do you know you're growing? And if you're not growing, are you dropping everything at some point, right? In some way, right? Some metaphorical way, so that you can really dive deep into your growth. I love that. So we're speaking to visionary leaders. So what are one or two things that you see high-flying leaders, like what do we struggle with when we're these high-achieving leaders?
Sure. So everyone got greatness inside of them. And that's the reason like maybe they step into this leadership role, they're doing something amazing in this world. But what is happening, Ryan, is at one point, they are realizing that there is an invisible glass ceiling that they're installing on their own. Just an example, just take a simple fly. Maybe you're sitting in your office room and the fly is making a lot of noise. When you take a close look at the fly is trying to break through the window glass that you have next to your computer. And you know it's impossible. And fly is trying even harder. It's trying to break even harder. It's trying to use every single ounce of energy the fly got and trying to go through that. And after some time, after 10, 15 minutes, the fly is going to be exhausting and like maybe say completely like going to give up. Whereas there is just like maybe 10 feet away from that window, there is an open door.
Right.
And the fly will never look at that open door because fly is thinking always like, I need to work harder. I need to even work more. And that is exactly many leaders are doing too. There are open doors available to you. You are stuck in the same job for many years. Maybe if you go and ask somebody how many years experience you have, maybe a principal, maybe a teacher, maybe an engineer, maybe a doctor, they say, I have 7 years experience, I have 15 years experience, I have 27 years experience. But they have those numbers, but they have 1 year experience. Most of the times, they repeated it multiple times.
Right.
That is the problem. Because you're trying to do like you're going to work 45 hours this year. Next year, maybe you're increasing. Say, I really wanted to be productive. I really wanted to do more. Let me work 50 hours, 55 hours. So they're burning themselves like a fly trying to break through that window. Whereas 10 feet away, there is a better opportunity. I'm not asking like you need to quit your job and look for the door. You need to start stepping back and see what is something that you can do differently. Because there is always somebody in the world who is a lot less experienced than you, lot less knowledgeable than you, making bigger impacts and making bigger money.
Yeah.
If you look like maybe start studying that, it's I think like maybe the thing that you can do that.
Well, it's good, right? So as high performers, people are really productive. Like we do a lot of things. So like perseverance is a key quality, right, to get things done. But as my mentor, as Dan Miller always says, the perseverance has to be in the right direction, right? That fly can be really persistent, but really just step over, right? Go through the door and then be persistent, right? So persistence is a key attribute, but we need to make sure it's going in the right direction. So if you're a high flying leader listening and you're struggling, make sure that persistence is going in the right direction. Do you have another thing that you see high flying leaders struggle with?
They're always stuck on one gear. Let's imagine our career is like a mountain bike with the 10 gears. And most of the people who are driving that the mountain bike, riding that mountain bike on the default gear, they're not even like aware there are multiple gears available to them. Moment like they can design the route based on like maybe the road that they're traveling. So a lot of times like people go with the default approach, Ryan. That is what like whatever that presented to them. Like they wait for their manager to say, hey, I'm retiring, so you can jump into my role. Is that really like required, or can you just like design something? I really want this thing, and go by design. And my number one promise, like all the people that I work with help, is like you are the CEO of your life. You are the CEO of your career. Why not you step in there and start taking action? Because you're so good at implementing the actions for all of your managers, maybe your organization, but when it comes to you are really like maybe putting yourself into the back seat and say, I'll do it later.
Yeah, you got to take care of it. I think I love the metaphors that you're bringing. I do some mountain biking, so it really relates. And then as leaders, sometimes, we're just always going at the highest gear. It's like sometimes you need to gear down for specific activities, right? And so, maybe you gear up at it, staff meeting, so you gear up to that one, but then you need to gear down, get into some deep work, and it needs to look a little differently. So I love that.
Absolutely. One other mistake that a lot of leaders, I've worked with so many C-level executives in the past, Ryan, and still like I've been working with a lot of powerful leaders. Just imagine your life is like a car, and car got 4 wheels, and your career, your finances is 1 wheel. And other 3 wheels are, 1 wheel is your health and your fitness. 1 wheel is your relationship with your family, relationship with your kids, relationship with your extended friends. And other wheel is about like your spirituality and contribution. The majority of the people that they're making mistake, they're trying to put that wheel, the first wheel, career and finance, at 150 miles an hour speed. There is nothing wrong with that. But when it comes to other wheels, they are not spinning at the same speed. They're not even in the same shape. They're in a different shapes. Doesn't matter how fast your career wheel is spinning, if the other wheels are not aligned, you are going to have a bumpy ride. That is the reason like, a lot of people in the corporate, they get like into a lot of depression, a lot of like anxiety, a lot of anger. It's not because of their careers, they're not growing. It's because of the other wheels are not aligned and they are not even aware of. They don't even know how to fix those things. They're not stepping back and slowing down, as you said, like they're always going in the high gear. They're always like a spinning. It's 150 miles an hour speed. They're looking for 200 miles an hour speed versus balancing other wheels.
Yeah, super good. I like that, in that metaphor with the car, you've got a bumpy ride, right? If one of your wheels is out of alignment, then you've got a bumpy ride and your other wheels can't go, right? The car, which is you, right, isn't really moving forward like it could be. So we got to balance those wheels.
Absolutely.
Good. So we've done some masterminds with principals. We've done some principal masterminds. We've got to sign up now for the next round of masterminds we're going to do. I know you advocate for masterminds at high leadership levels. Where does the success of a mastermind come from? And maybe before that, even just define what a mastermind is for those leaders listening that don't know what a mastermind is.
Absolutely. So let me give a simple example. Like there are multiple types of friends. So if you look at your community, you might have your neighbors as a friends, maybe your colleagues as friends, your classmates. These are the people who are maintenance friends. But there are few people in your life, they are like your growth friends. They're always available to you when you need some help. For example, you're slowing down in terms of your career, you're slowing down in terms of your health or maybe fitness or maybe your relationship. They're the ones comes to you and say, push you, give you that high five and say, hey, Ryan, you can do this. Hey, Ryan, you can go for extra mile. So those are the friends are more important. So the concept of mastermind, this came from like a very old age, like a Carnegie and like a Napoleon Hill days. So the simple way to understand this concept, for example, Ryan, you have an apple, let's call that like a red apple, and I have an apple that's a green apple. And we both decided to exchange our apples. I give my apple to you, you give your apple to me, and we both go home. At the end of the day, you still have only one apple, I still have only one apple. Whereas you have one idea and I have one idea, and you exchange your idea to me. Hey, Vamsi, I'm thinking about doing this. And hey, Ryan, I'm thinking about doing this. And we both exchanged ideas. At the end of the day, you and I are going to have two ideas. So this is the simple philosophy behind the masterminding. Just imagine you surrounded with 10, 12, 15 people. They all are in the same path of seeing possibilities in their life. Maybe you wanted to go for your first marathon. Maybe you wanted to start your first business. Maybe you wanted to just be a public speaker. Maybe go on a TEDx stage next year. So those ideas, once you start sharing with the people, with their journeys, you can see the possibilities. So it's all about like going back to Tony Robbins always says this, proximity is power. Who we are surrounded with is basically like our life is going to be like that. So if you surround with like maybe high achievers all the time, guess what? You will become that. If you surround with the people who are always like talking about politics, all nonsense, all like maybe negative things that are happening. If they don't have something, they Google and find negative things, something happening in North Korea. They want to talk about that. It's nothing that we can do. You become one of them, right?
Yeah.
It's all about like where you are choosing your time and how you are trying to, grow.
Yeah. Or Jim Rohn, you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Or what we've found in masterminds is part of the joy that comes out of it is you're in a mastermind. Maybe you meet weekly, maybe bi-weekly, whatever it is, but it's people that are like-minded, right? Like the high flyers that are listening to this, the visionary leaders that are listening, like we think differently than most people. And so if you just grab the average person at the grocery store, you're probably not going to talk about deep grading practices, scaffolding, hiring practices, innovative education, even at a typical education conference. The people that are listening to this podcast, they're thinking about project-based learning. They're thinking about things totally differently. So in a mastermind, you've got 10, maybe a few more, 10 to 15 people that are meeting regularly, but we think differently. And we've just found that we can solve a problem. Somebody brings a problem, a big educational problem. There was one time a principal brought large comprehensive high school, and because of COVID, all these sophomores failed their English class. It's like, what are we going to do? Well, we put him in an opportunity seat, and in about 15 minutes, he had the answer because it was just the right people in the right room, right? It was the 10 minds bouncing off of each other. We had the answer. That synergy is really important. Do you see that in your masterminds? Can you maybe give us an example as you're working with leaders? Just the power.
100%.
Yeah, just the power of a mastermind.
Yeah. It's like a 10 powerful people sitting in same room and sharing their wisdom. There is no problem that anyone got. It cannot be addressed in that room. Like they have like that capacity to go and think beyond. Like maybe anyone can think on their own. Ryan, that's the power of being sitting in the room and positioning, and also challenging each other. It's all about like you remember the story of Roger Bannister. Somebody's running a 4-minute mile. Until Roger Bannister completes that 4-minute mile, no one in the world thought it's possible. A lot of people tried and they failed, and they thought like human body is not designed to run a mile under 4 minutes. The moment Roger Bannister completed that, now if you look fast forward, high school kids are running 4-minute miles.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Right? So that's the power of masterminding. Like you see somebody's doing it. If Ryan can start a podcast and influence 1 million people, why not I can do that too? And that's the proximity. That's the power.
Yeah, they've been life-changing for me. So if anybody's listening and you're thinking about it, you just have to jump in. There's a whole portion of just the synergy, which is sometimes an overused word, but I think it's really important. once you're in a mastermind, it's hard to explain just all the positives that are there. But so, Vamsi, while we have you on the podcast, I want you to address this too, because we've got people that are pushing change in education, which is not easy. Like we're battling against, a really big ship, right? Education has been designed traditionally for over a century, so it's difficult. So how can leaders make sure that they're taking care of themselves while they're also operating at such a high level?
Sure. So we all need to remember this, especially when you are making a bigger change in the industry that you are in, or maybe the organization that you are in. Change is always like a hard in the beginning, and it's going to be messy in the middle. And we need to understand that messiness. We need to acknowledge that this is going to be a messy process. And you need to surrender yourself, like I'm going to go through this. You need to give yourself permission. It's okay to be messy for some time, but the moment we complete that change, it's going to be beautiful. So believe in that. And many people, they only look for short-term things, Brian. That's one of the problems that I've been noticing, that they only look for, okay, I really wanted to get the bonus next year. I really wanted to get the shiny thing next maybe quarter. Always have a bigger vision. Where do you want it to be 25 years from now? This is something that I learned from Dan Sullivan. He's one of my mentors, the strategic coach I've been part of. And Dan always talks about, like, you need to have a bigger vision, like a 25-year vision. If not, I think spend some time. Where do you want it to be? For example, you're a teacher, you're a principal, you're a leader. Ask yourself 25 years from now where you are going to be. And do you have a clear path? If you don't know where we are going, this is another famous quote, any road will take us there. That is the path like many leaders are taking. They're taking some road and they don't see the target. So that's the reason, like maybe they're not hitting the target by the time they are like maybe 25 years older than the current age. So having that clarity, having that the bigger vision is the most important thing, especially you wanted to make a bigger change and you need to surrender yourself. I'm going to be okay. If you're playing 25-year game, again, like it's like 100 quarters that you're going to be playing, not just like 2 quarters, not just 10 quarters, 100 quarters. So if you really wanted, you can take one thing and 100x, or maybe you can improve 100 things in these 100 quarters. So that is the game like I recommend people to start playing.
Yeah, I like that. There are a lot of things you could have chosen for like kind of a self-care question, but I like the idea of if you define your vision, and like you said, if you can move your vision out farther, then things aren't as immediate, right? Very few things become urgent, right? Like it's all part of the process and you're learning and implementing, and that probably takes a lot of the stress off. I like that. Great answer.
Exactly. Yeah. And one other thing that a lot of leaders do is they try to just teach something where they never been. So if you really wanted to take your teams, if you really wanted to take your students to the next level, you need to first go there. Be there. If you really wanted to say, hey, you need to be healthy before you graduate from high school. Are you really healthy? Are you being the role model? Are you walking the talk? Are you showing your six-pack to your kids?
Yeah,
teacher maybe 25 years older than me is having better health than me. I think it's a shame for me. I really need to start working out. So don't just like a talk, walk the talk. Show the video along with your audio. Most of the teachers, most of the leaders, most of the high performers, even the CEOs of the big healthcare companies, they're just talking. Show them, show your body, show your apps to all your employees. So you will be inspiring for them, and you will be creating like a bigger change versus what you're seeing on the social media, on the YouTube channel. So that's something everyone can do. Walk the talk.
Yeah, that's right. That's so good. In our world in project-based learning, like that means like when one of our visionary leaders, if you have a faculty meeting and you're just reading off something that could be in an email, then like you're demonstrating the opposite of what you want in the classroom. Like we want people collaborating. We want people problem solving in the classroom. If you want that, that needs to happen in your interaction with your staff. You need to walk that talk. You can't just say, hey, go have a student-centered classroom, and then you just do sit and you just lecture the whole time, basically, right? So you need to figure out how to get people to collaborate. The first thing I thought of, Vamsi, when you started that was, we do coaching at Magnify Learning. In order to do that, like I need to be coached, right? We do masterminds. So one of the first things I did, because I joined a mastermind, right? So I'm in a mastermind and I see the power of it. So I'm super comfortable offering that to principals because I know the benefit of it. But if I were to offer a mastermind just because it's a good idea and I've never been in one, then we're really shortchanging people then, aren't we?
Exactly. Sometimes like people won't notice that immediately, but we know that internally. We are not that person, and we reflect that through our words and language and our behaviors. And this is not good for a long term. Again, like if you have the bigger vision, you don't do that.
Yeah, that's right. It's good. All right, so I've got 2 more questions for you. I want people to be able to connect with you. But before that, can you give us a story of a leader who's been transformed through leadership coaching? I think coaching is so important.
Absolutely. So far, I'm really fortunate to mentor hundreds of people across the globe from various different industries, and so many transformations. It's all about like identifying the greatness inside of them. The moment they identify this is available to me, they created so many things like writing the book, like starting a podcast, maybe becoming the boss's boss, or 4-5xing their income through their businesses, multiple things. One story I wanted to share here, his name is Venkat. He lives in Troy, Michigan. He was my first client, and I known him for almost like 2 decades, and a very good guy, very good teacher. And about 5 years ago, he got some issue with his spinal cord. They had to do some surgery on his spinal. That is where I started mentoring him. He was like little low on his energy, little low on his confidence. And within first 6 months after coaching him, we both completed a half marathon in Detroit. That's the intercontinental marathon between Canada and the US. So we need to go to Canada and come back, and it's a marathon. And with the spinal surgery, everyone thought like it's a crazy thing. Everyone thought that is impossible. He's not going to be making it. He made it. We both were holding the hands each other, completed that run, and he showed the possibility for many people, many leaders who are just sitting on the couch. Hey, I ran a marathon with my spinal cord surgery just a few months ago, and doctor said that maybe it's not that good, and I completed it. I did not have anything. So the problem is there are a lot of people, they think they are done, they don't have energy, they don't have the stuff. But if they really tap into the greatness inside of them, they can do so many things. And he inspired after that like hundreds of people to run marathon. And a couple of 6 months ago, he quit his corporate job because he's a good teacher. Yeah, he started his own coaching business. And he started now helping hundreds of people again to step into their zone of genius and doing amazing things. That's like one of the things always like inspires me. But sometimes like I feel that, hey, I really like had a busy week. I don't want to go for a long run, and I just like remember him and say, hey, if he can run that with my help, why I'm not using my help to myself and I go for extra mile.
Yeah, that's right. As we coach others, we coach ourselves too, don't we? So for those visionary leaders listening, finding that coach in you, right? The leader-like coach, and we've got some other episodes around that idea, is really powerful for you and for your staff. It's a long-term investment, right? When you're coaching to somebody, there are short-term benefits, but it's really long-term. So I love that story. I just love that you're kind of inspiring us to find the greatness in those people around us, right? Like get out of the everyday, just the grind, or I have to do this. Like let's look for the greatness in the people around us and really fan that flame so they can operate in their zone of genius. Vamsi, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate you coming on today. How can our listeners find out more about you and the work that you do?
Absolutely. The best way to find me is on LinkedIn, Vamsi Polimetla. And maybe you can drop my LinkedIn handle on the podcast. And also you can go to vamsi.coach. That's my website. And again, like it's pretty basic website. I'm more active on LinkedIn than any other platform.
Sure. Yep. We'll put all that in the show notes so that our listeners can get it. Thank you for being on today, Vamsi. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right, visionary leaders, you heard it from a leadership coach expert. You need to invest in yourself. You can scale you. And guess what? Who's a part of everything that you're doing? Every initiative you have, every vision, every part of your school? you are. So if you got better, everything that you're touching would get better. So find a coach, find a mastermind, reach out to Vamsi. He can help you individually with great coaching. We do coaching at Magnify Learning too, obviously. And even just tuning into this podcast every week, you are sharpening your saw so that you can get better each and every day. And as you do that, you'll engage your learners, you'll tackle boredom, and you'll transform your classrooms. So go lead inspired. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the PBL Simplified Podcast. I appreciate you. I'm honored that you tune in each week. Would you please take 2 minutes to leave a rating and a review? When you leave a review, it lets the next person know that this is a podcast worth listening to. When they go into their player and search project-based learning and PBL Simplified popped up, when they see those reviews, they know that high-quality visionary leaders are listening. So they tune in too, and they can find their way into the PBL journey. Thank you so much for leaving a review. Thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you.